So Mark Rober just did something very irresponsible and probably illegal.
By driving her 8 hours down the coast back to the exact beach where she was raised. Having figured out and remembered the solutions to all my dumb puzzles, I was convinced she could certainly figure out and remember what it was like to hunt for her own food in the open ocean.
So just recently, Mark Rober released a video in which he bought an octopus from a pet store. Then he made an obstacle course for that octopus. And once the octopus completed that obstacle course correctly, he found out from the pet store where the octopus was collected from, and then he released it back into the wild. And while I love Mark Rober's content, I think he's a great science communicator, this was incredibly disappointing. You should never, ever release an animal from a pet store back into the wild, even if it's at the exact same place from where it's collected. Doing that can and has caused incredible amounts of destruction to the habitats in which you're releasing the animal. And that's because anytime you put an animal into the wild, you run the risk of introducing pathogens or invasive animals when you do it. The animal that you're holding in your hand is not just one organism. It is covered with bacteria. And coming from a pet store, a lot of those bacteria probably did not come from the place that octopus was collected. Also, a lot of marine animals have microscopic larvae. There is a good chance that some of those larvae are sticking to the skin of the octopus and also are getting introduced to that habitat. Worldwide, there are a ton of examples of invasive or pathogenic organisms that were introduced to lakes, rivers, and oceans because someone released it from their home aquarium. That's why in California, like most states, it's actually illegal to release aquatic animals back into the wild without first getting permitted by the state and probably inspected. I'm well familiar with this because I have to go through a ton of permitting and inspections to be able to re-release the octopuses I used for research. And I can guarantee you I would never be able to get a permit to release an animal that came from a pet shop. I know that the state of California where this happened is just as stringent on these things, if not a bit more so, than the state of Washington where I work. So this kind of permit being issued, I can't imagine that happening. Even if this was done legally, if it was permitted by the state of California, this was a dangerous act that required a lot of safety measures to do appropriately, and none of that came through in the video. So Mark, I doubt you will ever see this, but in case you do, I want to ask something of you. You have a huge following. At the time I'm recording this, that video already has 11 million views. And people look up to you. They like to emulate the things that you do. Just to look like the glitter bomb and the squirrel obstacle courses. Other people tried that after you did. But people emulating you by releasing animals from pet stores back into the wild could have huge ecological consequences. I implore you, use your platform and please let your audience know that releasing animals from pet stores is not okay.